Like I said, the recording should just be in Forrest, whoever's standing up there. You might get your voice if you're talking, but it wouldn't be, it won't be broadcast. So.
Yeah. I think we're ready to start.
All right.
Recording has started.
We have a couple of different things in your folder here. You probably have already looked through them a lot. We have the handbook. We'll be going through that a lot. That's the main thing we're going to be talking about throughout the slides. This one doesn't seem to. Oh yeah. We do have a spot for you to take notes with the different slides. If that's something you guys want to do, take notes. We have a project search polo shirt thing. Each year we have 2 shirts that we provide the interns. So it's just kind of like pick your color, pick your sizes, pick your cut, male, female, whichever you prefer. What we're going to do this year is we're going to have everyone vote on 2 colors, and then those are going to be what everyone has. Both types will have the same color this year. Same 2 colors. All right. So we just had a couple little late. We're just introducing ourselves. We just kind of missed that part. If you want to tell us your name and what site you were at and what your favorite dessert is. So we'll go from there.
Joe,
What's the second question?
Like what site you're going to be at? I believe you're going to be at the hotel, right? And then what's your favorite dessert?
what is a hotel? Ice cream?
Yeah, I had lots of ice cream. It's
We
like
did.
good weather for it.
Yeah.
Then, Mom, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. My name is Marta, and I'm so glad that you guys all were chosen to this project, and I just hope that everybody will be chosen, right? Because we really need this type of program. And yay to the community and to Johnson County support you. And yay for parents here.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, yeah, we have the shirt order form if you want to fill that out.
Right.
On that, before you leave, just drop it off at that desk. We are going to be talking about workforce, but I'll probably get into that when we get the slide.
This should be we can talk about that next.
I know I'm missing.
Some of us who are with Johnson County government, I put in a form to sign up for intern meetings.
Okay.
So that'll be a form that's in that left-hand side as well. So if you can get that back to me today, or if you need to take it home and look at your schedules before you turn it in, that's fine too.
And for the hotel, we kind of did that at the intake. If you don't remember yours, we'll probably send out an email asking for their intakes again. Just so you can get them.
I brought the sheet with
Oh,
me.
you do have it, okay.
They can sign it before they leave.
All right, we'll have that at that. Yeah, so same basic dates. It's going to be 3 a year. You have 1 or
6 a year.
Yeah, 2 for rotation. So we'll have meetings where we come together and just kind of go over trends, what we need to work on, those kind of things. And that's something that is intern driven and is about the parents to attend as well. In case there's anyone else that supports. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with
Workforce.
workforce staff, huh?
Yeah, if it'll let me. Yeah. There it goes.
Okay, so do they have the instructions in there about the workforce?
Yes.
Okay. You should also have some instructions about how to do the workforce sign up. We have before. A little confusing. There's going to be some dates that we're going to be talking about. On the dates that we have, it'll be July.
Yeah, July 18th.
18th. There's a sheet in there for sign up for that as well. What we're doing, so it's not first come, first serve, we're going to kind of just take up to 3 of your availability, and we'll kind of let you know which one you decided that it would work for you. So if you can fill this one out, we have Monday, the 18th, 9 to 10, 10:30 to 11:30, 1 to 2, 2:30 to 3:30. And that's at the Workforce Partnership over on Blue Jackets, basically I-35 and 28.
Yeah, it's Blue Jackets off of 87th Street and the highway. Yeah.
I-35. Just kind of look through that. If you don't really have your times spot right now.
Yeah, you can take it home and give it to us quickly.
If you're flexible, you can click the box that says any of these times work for me. And that way we can kind of put you where we need to. Then there's none of these available. None of these times work for me. So you'll have to follow up with us. And we're going to time for you and the workforce partnership when you do that. Just kind of look through that a little bit as we're going through this. Like I said, workforce partnership. before that date, before that, meeting in July, there is some instruction on how to fill out the ONET profiler, ONET profiler.
Profiler.
Yeah, and, getting set up with a workforce partnership account. We do have those. They just changed the website, so it's not exact, but it should be fairly close to how they, step-by-step instructions on how to do that in your home computer. We will have a date available for you to come up and use ours, and we can help our computers, so we can help you go through all that, if that's something you need help with.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We set up a time for that.
yeah, just take a look at it at home.
Yeah.
We had people start trying to do it at home during COVID, and people were generally able to navigate that pretty well. But if you're getting stuck, feel like you need some help, let us know, and then we'll get a range of time to get together with you to figure that stuff out before the workforce meeting.
And so, yeah, we talked about the time slot sheet. Some of the documents that workforce needs,
Yeah, might need guardian signatures.
guardian signatures, so if you're not your own guardian, there might be somewhere that the guardian would have to sign as well. It should be, pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll point it out which ones you need to have.
So bring someone with you, basically.
So yeah, for that workforce partnership meeting, yeah, it might be nice to have. Yeah, your guardian, your parent, whoever, go with you, that kind of thing. We'll get, after we get all your data, we'll send out an email saying what dates we have you sign up for. If that doesn't work, you'll let us know, and we can arrange that. So whatever works for you.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. And then some on the income documentation on that, the
Yeah, and-
initial application, right?
Yeah, we've gotten most of these back.
Okay,
So when you filled out these forms, there's when you reported your income, you checked off types of income you get. So any type of income you get, they need some sort of supporting documentation for, right? And some of that we've already been able to get some of. Chris is going to talk about some common types here in a second,
Right.
but if you have one that's not one of the common types we're going to talk about, let us know and we'll figure out what we need to, get together for that.
so basically, you have this, your food stamps, if you have that, documentation for that, if you check those boxes, unemployment insurance, if you're getting that stuff.
Yeah.
SSDI, SSI, that kind of stuff.
And it's just interns, so no
Yeah.
family documentation is needed. It's just the person who's
For the intern, that whole thing. What you have,
Doing.
Maria? Question?
Does the meeting happen before owner or can this happen?
The ONET.
Is before.
Be done before that.
Okay.
So if we need that done prior to the meeting date that you have set, like I said, we'll have, if you can't get it done, if you're having a hard time getting it through by yourself, we'll send out an email for a date, you can come up and use our computers and we'll walk you through it. Shouldn't take more than an hour.
Yeah.
At the most. All right. Okay, so when you're at the workforce partnership meeting, some of the things you might need to bring are your letter of disability, which we should
Yeah.
have most of that stuff. That
we
was one thing
were able to
we
get a
talked
lot
about
of
today.
people's.
Mhm.
So what we do is prior to these meetings, we check on, we have access to some documentation with the CDO database and we can provide some documents on your behalf. So we take what we can, but sometimes not everything's there. And so what we're gonna do is get copies of what we can, provide them to workforce, and she's gonna tell us what we have left to get from you. And then we'll pass that information along. So just have these things on your radar, basically. And we'll let you know what we need. We just kind of want to go over what's ultimately needed, so you guys just have them.
So if you get
Under radar.
SSDI or SSI, just your most recent letter statement, bring that. If you have a job, if you're currently working, they would like to have pay stubs for the last 6 months. From July, so like if, you're working, bring the last 6 months from that date. And food stamps, any of that kind of stuff, if you get any sort of benefits like that, bring sort of documentation for that as well.
Yep.
Okay, then things you also need that day, so security card, we have some of those things on file, that were part of the application packet. With pretty much all of them that we have.
We got a lot of them.
Yeah.
So the thing here, I explained this in some of the intake meetings, but this is something, these are like things I was talking about that we can usually get copies of. Sometimes, however, the copies aren't very high quality. And so when we provide them to the workforce, they need pretty good quality copies. So same thing, we're gonna take what we have. They're gonna tell us what works and what they need different copies of, and we'll get back with you about that.
If you're familiar with I-9 stuff, that's basically that, just for wages and those kind of things. So if you have like a birth certificate, Kansas ID now expired, some of the ones we have are expired, so if you have one that's updated, let us know about that. Those have to be not expired. And then letter, I guess, letter from your SSI with an internship
Yeah.
on it.
Just to clarify, because this is a common question.
Yeah.
Because you notice it says one of the following, so you don't need all three of those things,
Oh.
right? They just need something, it's some sort of proof of identity. And the only reason that third one's listed in there is because if you do get SSI and you are the primary addressee of that, and it has your name and address, then that can cover a couple things. They'll cover your proof of income for that and your identity. So they don't have to do it that way. That's just an option. But if you get SSI and it's in your parent or guardian's name, that's fine. Still bring that letter, but you'll need some other identification. That's all that means. Not a big deal. People get worried about that and they're like, oh, my name's not on this. Okay. And I guess this might be a good place just if there's any questions, because
Okay, yeah.
with the workforce stuff.
Questions about the workforce stuff, yeah, I guess there's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is a lot of stuff.
And we're here to help. Any kind of questions, feel free to email us if you have any specific questions.
So I think we've already provided the ID and.
Yeah,
So but we do have a new SSDI notification.
Okay.
You're saying that's required in addition to the others?
yeah, they need any proof of income. So if they're getting SSI, then they'll need the most recent letter that just has the most up-to-date payment information. Okay.
Yeah, that was passed.
Yeah, bring that on your.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just need the like whatever states the payment, whatever official letter you have that states that now. Right. So just to kind of review for this, because I know it's a lot through the process, but so far we've done the initial application to WIOA. We did that in the intake meeting. We've got most of those back. So next step is own it profiler and Kansas Sports account. And then we want to get signed up for those meetings for that week of the July of the 18th and get to those. And that's when we need all that documentation for.
We have in here.
Does that make enough sense? Okay. And if you get confused, you won't be the first person. Please reach out. All right. I guess we'll move on.
Yeah. Okay, so update for this year. I know we might have mentioned something about it in the intake meetings. We had previously been at Embassy Suites, but we've been able to partner with Marriott now. So we will be going to Marriott instead of Embassy Suites. And the one that's at the hotel will be at the Marriott. They'll be able to provide a better classroom for us and just a bigger space and just kind of a better partnership all around. So that's something new this year. So you'll have really that first class of Marriott.
Yeah, and they're really excited to have us start there. We were meeting with the managers the other week, and we're actually starting to do some of the trainings with them to learn about how some other hotel operations. So just to get ready about learning about them so we can make good matches with them. So that'll be part of our week this week, actually, is we're going out there a few days this week to check some of their departments out. So
that won't change any of the transportation. You know, we sign up for the route-based transportation, they'll just take you there.
Yeah.
No real different on your end. If we're driving, I don't know if we have anything that's drive, but we'll go over that in where to park and all that kind of stuff. Yes, what, 108 in Metcalf, 107 in Metcalf?
it is. They just finished a remodel over there. They're still working on it. They're still finishing up.
They just remodeled our classroom.
Yeah.
All the things to our classroom. We need our classroom, I think, we need to do, so. Looking forward to that.
All right. I think I'm taking over for a bit.
Oh, are you?
I know. I'm sorry, Chris. So at this point, we're going to start talking about some items from the handbook. So in that folder we gave you, on the right-hand side, I think I put it. That's our intern handbook, and Chris is, showing it off over there. Like, that's what you're looking for. So we're gonna go through the items in there. We're not gonna go through absolutely everything, but we're gonna go through a lot of the key sections and talk about what some of the stuff means, what we need to do. And it's relatively in order. We might have to go back and forth here and there, but try to keep it relatively in order. And we're actually going to start at page 6, which is behavioral conduct. And I'm going to go over the RAP section first. Okay. Is everybody ready? Everyone got their handbooks out? Looks like it. So RAP is a philosophy we follow that we outline there in the handbook. You might have worked, all of us have probably worked at companies with behavioral values. So it's kind of like our set of behavioral values. It's something we came up a number of years ago. The set of 4 skills that we feel best encapsulate like what you see in a successful working person. People who have these values tend to be more successful in the workplace. Oh, I forgot to put positivity in here.
Oh,
It's okay. I'll talk about it.
or is it like a click one that goes mute or something?
Oh, it
Yeah,
is.
there it is.
Okay, yeah.
There's a second P to our wrap.
Yeah. So here are the 4 values, and they're all probably words you've heard before. We have respect, and then there we have the golden rule, which is treat others how you want to be treated, right? Accountability, being responsible for your own actions. And it also means holding other people in the workplace accountable as well, right? Like you're supposed to be getting the things you need, right? Professionalism, which is acting in a way that's work appropriate. I often say a business-like manner, right? So at work, we talk about how we have kind of almost like a slightly different persona we use, like a business persona, right? That's kind of what that's talking about. And then positivity, right? Having a good attitude, being someone that your workplace wants around, right? Someone that brings good energy to the workplace. And I think when, for anybody, some people have some of these values that come to them more naturally. Some of them might not be, and that's okay. But that's the values that we want to consistently work on and use while we're here and learn how to use. So the idea is that if we really hold to these values consistently, that we're going to be more prepared for working successfully, basically in any workplace, right? Because they all use them. It's a two-way street. So it's not that we're just asking you to follow these values. These are the values that we follow as well, right? So all of our interactions in the workplace, whether it's for me or for someone else from our staff or that you work with, should be filtered through RAP, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Next section I want to talk about is adult status. So we're a adult model vocational program, right? We work with adults. And what we find when it comes to work is that having adult status leads to better employment outcomes. So what does adult status mean? Well, when we talk about adult status, what we basically mean is basically being treated as an adult, right? Someone who has being perceived as an adult and being treated as such. Okay. And what we want to talk about here is what we can do to kind of help promote adult status. So I'm going to be talking to interns and families about some things that are good to look at. Some of them might be things you're already doing. Some of them might be things you've tried, haven't worked, but we're going to talk about some of those things and about what some good modes of operation might be. So an important thing to note is that when you work in a community job, the expectations are adult expectations, right? When you're coming into community employment and you're looking for competitive jobs, the jobs you're looking for are competitive for anyone in the job market, right? Not just people with disabilities. So you're competing with people who are diverse. Some of them have disabilities, some don't, have all kinds of different backgrounds, right? And so when you're competing in that kind of competitive job market, you need to, and those employers are interviewing you and getting to know you, they want to feel like you're going to be able to meet their expectations of that workplace, right? That you're going to be able kind of like following rap. They're going to be respectful, accountable, professional, positive. They can count on you to do stuff, right? So that's what we want to realize. So I have a couple messages here. It's kind of that mantra of giving someone a fish versus teaching them a fish, right? Everyone in here is doing project search because they want to be successful at work. What we want to do is give you the tools to be as independent as you can be, right? Because the more independent skills you have, the easier it'll be to look for a job, the more doors that'll be open to you, okay? So here's some things to think about. And maybe things you already do, maybe there are things you're not. Think about how you get up in the morning, right? Does someone help wake you up? Do you use an alarm? How independent are you at that? Myself, for example, I have an alarm. I also do have a wife. Has she woken me up sometimes? Yes. I also have kids. Have my kids woken me up sometimes? Yes. So it's not that you never have any help, right? But if you do have the skill to, wake up to an alarm, then it's kind of like you have more than one. You have a plan and a backup plan, right? It's like more than one way to make sure that you get to work on time, right? So being responsible for that tends to be good. Think about how you do breakfast or lunch, right? Is that something you do for yourself? Do you have ways you can do that independently if you need to? Again, I look at myself. Do I make my breakfast myself a lot? Yeah. Do other people make it for me sometimes? Yes. Same thing for the lunch. But again, maybe if there's a day where you didn't have someone available to make lunch for you, like would you be able to find a way to do that and still be successful, right? Filling out paperwork. Okay. I like to ask a question for this one. Who gets help doing their taxes? I know I do. Anyone have a tax professional? So it's not unusual to get help filling out paperwork. Okay. But you're still involved, right? Like you're still keeping in touch with what's going on. So like when we get my taxes done, like my tax professionals updating me on what they're doing, right? And they're being transparent with me about it. And I'm kind of trying to learn what they're doing, right? So it's about doing it as independently as you can, right? Some people need more help with paperwork. Some people maybe just need someone to look over it, make sure they did it okay. Sometimes I have my coworker Tina proofread things for me, right? So that's all okay, but again, it's about independence levels. Delivering forgotten items. So I think we've all had a time where we've helped someone out and got them something they forgot or something. But something else to think about is, are there more independent problem-solving skills we can learn? So we have more tools, again, to solve the problem. Because there might be a time where your family member might not be available to deliver something for you. Like, what do you do, right? And sometimes you have to have that experience to learn why it's important to learn that skill. And it kind of leads to the next point about making failure to plan someone else's emergency, right? I still remember one time where I was in college and I had a really big homework assignment due, right? It was a really big part of my grade. And I had it all done and I went up to class and I realized I left it at home and I forgot to print it out and take it with me, right? And so the only thing I could think to do was call my dad and ask him to email it to me. And he's not a very computer savvy person, right? He's barely sent any emails in his life. So I made my failure to plan a difficult thing for him, right? And we managed to work it out that time, but you might not be able to work that out every time. Chores like doing laundry. How independent are you on those things? Those are good things that kind of you can learn that are related to job skills, right? And it's not just knowing how to do it, but also when to do it and recognizing the need to do it. Those are kind of those initiative skills we like to see in the workplace. Those can be good things to practice. Emailing and calling in. This is something a lot of people learn more through here. So some of you who are coming in this year are a little older, maybe already have some experience working and calling in, and you're like, oh, I know how to do that for us. Some of you might be younger, recently graduated school, haven't had as many chances to do that. And it's kind of like college. When you're working with a supervisor, they're not going to expect your folks to be the one to call in and let them know you're not coming in, right? A lot of employers wouldn't want you to do that. They want to hear it from you. So that's something we want to practice while we're here too, while we're doing project search, because it's a good time to learn that skill while we're in this more structured environment, right? So does that mean your parent or guardian can't give me a heads up while you're practicing to do that? That's fine. But I do want to hear it from you. That's what we want to practice and get good at before you leave, right? So sometimes people come and they're like already great at doing that. Sometimes people need a little more help at first until they get used to it. But it's about working towards that. Emailing and calling in. Oh no, I just did that one. Keeping track of doctor's appointments and requesting time off. This is a common problem we see when people start working. So a lot of people get help managing some of their appointments, which that's fine. But it's kind of like the paperwork thing where having involvement, right? Being aware, maybe scheduling some of the appointments that you can so that you're able to better communicate when that stuff is at work. So it's not something for everybody, but something that could be a good thing to work on. Make you more independent and more likely to be successful. So there are some thoughts about being more independent. And then something to think about is competence and capability. And I have this message for both parents and interns, right? So be thinking about what can I improve on, right? Do I need you to be a master of all these things? Not necessarily, right? But the more stuff you can get good at, the more independent you'll be. So those are just some thoughts. Something else I like to talk about with this. We're gonna get a little audience engagement for this part. Okay, so what's this? Oh, lunchbox, right? Right. So a lot of you might be bringing lunch boxes when you do project search so you can have lunch. That's nice, right? Okay, you guys got that one. What's this? It's also a lunchbox. Yes. So we have two lunch boxes, right? Yeah. So we have two different lunch boxes, right? So one question to ask is, which one's more a better first impression, right? If you're going to a new job, which one's going to leave a better first impression with a new employer? What do you guys think? Why do you think the first one, Catherine? So it's kind of back to the adult status thing, right? So I think that's a good point. Now let me ask everyone this and be honest. Who in here likes Pokemon? Nobody? Really? I'm the only one? Okay. Okay. So Pokemon came out in 1998. I was 10. Wow, that was like the perfect time, right? So I'm a big Pokemon fan. Now, do I have a Pikachu lunchbox? No.
Well, you do.
Now, I guess here's the thing I like to touch on here, because like I take Chris, for example. Chris is a big Star Wars fan. Okay. Now, now he had to pack up his desk recently because we're moving over. But his desk wasn't unpacked and he went to his desk. You would see some Star Wars stuff, right? So that's cool. Now that's something else that, Catherine, you might be like, well, that's not maybe the best first impression, and I agree with that. But Chris has also been at this job, what, 15 years? 18 years. So he's had time to establish himself, show he's a professional person, right? But when you're starting a job, you want to be careful about doing stuff like that. Now, is that against policy? No. But you can be you're more professional, have more adult status if you bring in some more adult-like items. That's something to think about. Any questions about anything? Oh yeah, Madison. Yeah. Yeah. I prefer Gengar myself, but any questions about any of this stuff before I take a break and we move on to Sheree over here? No? Okay. I'm gonna take a quick break. Sheree's gonna come up and we're gonna move to page 7, I believe it is, and it's gonna be clothing and attire. And yes, thank you for walking around that way. Oh, sure. All right, so yep.
So we have a dress code, and you can still wear your casual clothes on certain days, but the attire for work will be considered based upon where you're at. Some places have uniforms. You may have to wear gloves, you may have to wear, non-slip shoes. So it's gonna be based upon where you would do your internship. So we'll deal with that when we get there. And that's off-site attire for, like, this person here looks like Centos, they're wearing the uniform at Centos, and they'll give you a shirt. Everything, we will provide the uniforms to you guys.
Yeah.
Based upon where you're working at, okay? And I always talk about the gloves and non-slip. If you're at maybe a medical field or something like that, you have to wear gloves. Or if you're at a nursing home, sometimes you have to wear gloves, or you may have to wear a mask, depending on the site that you work in.
Part of the fun of orientation is we take you out shoe shopping. So we get to do that. And so we get to non-slip shoes. We found that, if people have odd shoe sizes, we can reimburse you if it's easier to order them online. But for the hotel, at least, they are required. So we will provide that for you.
Okay, for your interview, we like to dress up business casual. And that, as you see them, they got the slacks on. We really don't prefer the jeans when we're doing the business casual for your interviews. A nice shirt or a dress for the girls and some slacks. Nice dress shirt and slacks for the guys. You see how they're sitting there and stuff. They're just trying to come in there with a professionalism and go part in it, which some of you guys are already doing. The jean versus the pants. We want, on the day that you can wear casual clothes, we prefer you not to wear I know they have styles with rips and jeans, but we're trying to, get us used to the professionalism. So we don't want any ripped jeans or torn jeans, even though I know they're fashionable.
Yeah, especially right. They have made a comeback.
Yes. And the business casual, maybe like the shirts we have, we provide for you, but you can wear your own type of shirt when we don't ask you to wear private shirts. Sometimes we will ask you to wear them, and I'll go to the next slide.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we may be doing an outing, so we all like to coordinate. We may want to take pictures, and if someone is not wearing their shirt when we ask them to wear their shirt,
Like this one,
see
yeah.
the picture kind of looks off balance. So if we ask you to wear the shirt, we really want you to wear the shirt because we're really trying to take pictures and show your growth and the things that you're doing throughout the project.
And yeah, first couple days for orientation, obviously you won't have your project search shirts. So just ask that you wear business casual stuff that you wore to like your assessment day or the intake day. We kind of went over that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I think you're doing hygiene, and that's the last thing. Okay.
Hygiene. Nobody really likes to talk about this. And I know you guys do not have this problem, but I have to go over this because sometimes we run into this kind of stuff. So we want to make sure you look your best and be your best. When you come in here, we want you to maintain a good hygiene, shower regular, things like that, using deodorant, nails clean, trimmed, hair combed. Well, mine's kind of breezy right now because of the weather. And shaved, if you have a beard, trimmed and shaved, brushing your teeth and washing your hands.
Yeah.
And that just keeps you safe,
Mhm.
because COVID taught us a lot. So that's all I have.
And we'll go over that too in orientation. So yeah. All right. So All right, so now we're gonna go to attendance. I'll just stand here. I got tired of moving around. Hopefully you can all hear me. So basically attendance, right? So just being where you're scheduled to be when you're scheduled. That's on page 10 of the handbook. We'll kind of go over some of that stuff. Um, to have a little joke frame here, if you've seen Office Space where they say, hey, it looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately. And the guy says, I would say I've been missing it. That kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for that kind of humor. Or I don't know. So our daily schedule, we do expect you to be there any day you can, right? Obviously we'll go over what sickness looks like and what all that kind of stuff looks like. But our daily schedule is found on page 9, and it's Monday through Thursday. We're in the class, or we're in the internship. Monday through Friday is, let me start. Monday through Friday, you're at Project Search. All right. And so Monday through Thursday, you'll have an hour of training in the morning, and then you'll go to your internship site. That's not including the first 3 weeks of orientation. We'll just be in the classroom going over everything that we're talking about here, going over a little more in depth in the handbook, that kind of stuff. We're just kind of touching surface of some of the stuff of the handbook. But just your daily schedule, it looks like, 8:30. Hopefully you get there, the bus takes you, or if you drive, be there by 8:30, right? So not showing at the door at 8:30, then getting all your stuff and putting it away at 8:30, in the classroom, ready to go 8:30, right? And we'll do that for instructional time. You have your internships, and then lunch, which is 45 minutes, depending on the site you're at. And sometimes people get half an hour, sometimes people get a full hour, just depending on the rotations you're in. Then after lunch, go back to your internship site. Then Friday, instructional time all day. So you're stuck in a classroom with me all day.
It's fun.
It's fine, yeah. We have a good time. But so that works out to be about 20 hours of work a week. So if you're thinking about, I can't work X amount of hours, by the time you'll be working 20 hours a week, your stamina will be up. And when you graduate, you'll be looking to do at least 20 hours, if not more, right? And so here's your calendar too. There's one in there, and you probably got one in the intake, but it just kind of shows you an overview of how long the process is, right? So the different color codings, the first ones in August there, the first 3 weeks are the green. That is the orientation weeks. That's kind of, getting to know the building, getting to know each other, getting to know how to get along, interact with people in Project Search, right? And then we'll have our interviews as well. So for your first rotation for the purple, it's about 10 weeks or so. So about 3 months of each rotation. And it brings you all the way to May. And the red there are all the fun holidays that you get off, right? We do have a week for Thanksgiving, a week for Christmas, winter, spring break, yay, and all kind of stuff. So just we kind of talked about that in the intake. If you're gonna take vacations, it's fine. Just maybe try and plan accordingly. All right, so now we're back on page 11 with attendance. See if I can kind of follow along here. Interns are expected to come to Project Search on time every day, and they're expected to have a business-led mindset and prioritizing being prepared for work. That's what I said about being at work at 8:30 in the classroom, not showing up at 8:30, not wandering around and showing up, later in the day. You treat this whole year like it's a job. It's a 9-month interview, you could say, right? So during this time, interns must call and cancel transportation for that day. And we'll go over that in orientation. It's in the handbook. But like Forrest was saying, we kind of want the interns to do that if they're able to do that at first. So we'll work through it. Parents can help, all that kind of stuff. Just like with anything, if you're going to be sick the night before, I think there's a hotline you can call or cancel. Right, Casey, if you're using that service, we just ask you to do that so they can plan accordingly. If they don't have to pick you up, and the other people won't have to wait so long, right? Contact your internship site supervisor. So that's like your job. That would be like your boss at your internship, right? You guys don't know who that is yet, but we'll let you know. So these are just the different steps. And then we ask that you let us know as well as soon as you can. Doctor's appointments and meetings, this happens. we do have absence request forms, and we'll go over that in orientation. We do like to have as much notice as possible. A lot of times, doctor's appointments, months in advance, right? So just let us know as much as you can. And we do expect attendance to be about 95% or higher. And so that it's not much. You can miss some days, not everyone can be there every day, but we want to make sure you're there when at all possible. You
Yeah,
gonna say something?
yeah,
Oh.
if you average it out,
Oh, yeah.
it's basically missing a day per month.
Yeah.
It gives you kind of basic idea.
All right. So this is the fun part of whether or not you're determining you're sick or you're not sick. I used to have it so it would kind of come up one at a time, but that get kind of work. You're sick if you're vomiting, right? We don't want you around. You're vomiting, you have a fever, diarrhea, that kind of stuff. That's sick. Not sick. A new video game came out, so you just don't feel like coming in, right? That's happened. I've been there, maybe in my younger years. Stayed up too late the night before. So you just don't feel like getting up and getting on the bus. That's not sick, right? Runny nose, inconvenient, not necessarily sick. It's a little different, COVID, that we kind of keep an eye on that kind of stuff, but use your judgment, your best judgment for that kind of stuff. If you can take over the counter meds that would solve some of these issues, feel free to do that. Friend or relative is in town, they just showed up, but hey, I want to hang out with them. I'm not going to go to work today. That's not really good, right? I mean, it happens, but
Planning on their part.
poor planning, sure. Missed breakfast. That's not a reason not to come in. It's like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna miss my bus so I can eat breakfast, right? That's part of pre-planning and having, like Forrest was saying, emergency plan or a backup plan for all your backups. And a headache, and we're not talking about migraines because those are pretty serious. But if you just a slight headache that you might have, it tends to go out, maybe goes away throughout the day. Like I said, you can bring over-the-counter medication with you, and go for like that.
I did that today.
Oh yeah, see.
I think this morning I brought some extra medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I like to say here is just that if you're not sure, do what everyone else does and just call your supervisor, call
Yep.
us. Like,
Mhm.
hey, here's one I'm feeling, should I come in or no?
Yeah.
And you get kind of a better feel
Yeah.
of what is and isn't sticking up as you do.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're one of the first column there, you don't want you coming in and spreading that along with us. But
Yeah.
or if you have doctor's orders, like you're not sick currently, but you're on a doctor's orders not to be out and about, that's fine. Okay, so now we've determined what is sick and what is not sick. So what do you do now, right? So you are sick. So like I said, call and cancel your transportation for that day, both ways. I do have a caveat there that not the whole route, just your ride. And they've been better at that, but that has happened before where someone called and they ended up canceling the whole route. So no one got picked up that day. So that wasn't much fun to figure out how to get everyone back into Project Search. But they are better at that. They realize that that's a mistake that they don't need to be making anymore. So the right KC people, not the
Yeah,
interns.
we look back at that and laugh.
We laugh at it now, but at the time it was pretty stressful. Contact your internship site supervisor. Once you get to know them, they'll have their own policies. Sometimes it's email, sometimes they want to actually hear from you. Sometimes you can leave a message, and just depending on what they want, and we'll go through that with all the different options during the orientation and all that kind of stuff. Contact Project Search. We ask that you contact us last so you can tell us that you've taken all those other steps, right? We're going to ask you if you've called transportation. We're going to ask you if you called your internship site. And so contact us last, and we'll give you the information on how to do that. It's on page 10. The different buildings have different attendance lines, or you'll get to know us, and we'll may or may not give you our cell phones, depending on how lucky we think you should be. But yeah, just, let us know what's going on. All right, so you're not sick, but you just missed the bus, right? Sometimes the buses don't come. That's not your fault. We won't be held against that. Sometimes the bus comes, you're not there. Uh-oh. So what happens then, right? So if you feel like you're going to miss the bus, or you've already missed the bus, and you'll be there by 8:30, or you'll be there after 8:30, right? You'll just let us know, right? So like your backup plan, you missed the bus, your backup plan is still going to have you there just shortly after 8:30, right? Just let us know. You don't have to worry about the other people. Like, obviously, you don't have to call the transportation because they've already come and gone, right? If you're going to be after 9:30, that's like when your internship starts, right? So you'll that's when you have to start reporting to your supervisor. So let us know and then let your internship supervisor know as well. And this is a lot. It's basically just saying call the people you're supposed to call. And we'll go over this in orientation, but we just want to kind of let you know what our expectations are as far as calling in for attendance. Because they'll have some repercussions a little later.
Yeah, it makes sense if you think about it, like
Yeah.
basically about what you're gonna miss.
Mhm.
You gotta let people know.
Yeah. All right, so out, call and cancel transportation, contact your internship site supervisor and contact project search. If you're only gonna be late, depending on what it is, contact project search, or your supervisor if you're gonna be later than 9:30. I guess you could call them and tell them you're gonna be later, but if you get there before 9:30, they're not gonna really care, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now we have some attendance violations, right? So this isn't soccer. You want fewer points of these. So more like golf, I guess, if sports fans out there. No, okay.
But it is more.
Yeah, more like golf, but not exactly like golf. So some of the points, a lot of businesses kind of do that, attendance points, no call, no show, 1 point, right? You just don't bother calling, you don't bother showing up, we don't know where you are, 1 point. Arriving late without notice, proper notice, 0.5 point, or leaving early too, because we had some people that would just kind of leave their job early once they got a little more relaxed, and they would leave and go wait for the ride, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes early, right? So we can't be doing that. As you can see, 2 points, and we'll have a disciplinary action. So that will add up eventually. We'll go over that again, orientation weeks, but it's something to keep in mind now. No call show is a very serious thing that a lot of businesses don't tolerate. So we're kind of trying to get that mindset in for you thinking. That's any question on anything, stuff that I've mentioned so far? I know it's kind of a lot and I tend to ramble, but again, if you want to email us with questions or just talk to us afterwards, we'll be here as well. The next thing we have, part of Johnson County, you may already be signed up for this. For inclement weather and stuff, we do use Notify Joco. And part of the orientation week, we'll kind of get everyone signed up for that if they want on their cell phone, or text or email, that kind of stuff. Because they'll send out stuff saying, hey, the county is closed. If the county is closed, project search is closed, right? It doesn't usually close very often. I think it's happened once in the 18 years that I've been here.
Don't count on that.
But again, use your best judgment when it comes to whether or not you feel like getting on. And that doesn't mean that Ride KC won't cancel, because they'll do that. And if they cancel, then we'll cancel as well. So just we'll get you signed up for that. You may already have that. And it's you get texts about thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff at 3 in the morning. I know the other day when we had those tornadoes, I kept getting those, and that was fun. But all right, so that's all I have. Oh, am I doing this one?
Yep.
Oh boy, you got me for a little while longer.
You're on.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we do have leave accrual, like a lot of different businesses will have. You'll start out with some vacation time, some sick time, right? 3 floating holidays. The county kind of does that. So we will offer those to you as well. We'll kind of go over that in orientation, but just kind of keep in mind that you'll have different leave for different situations. Like if you are taking a vacation, you'll use vacation day. If you use a doctor's appointment, you can use sick leave,
It's a good chance to practice some of that
Mhm.
stuff, because a lot of businesses use systems like that.
Yep. And then floating holidays is kind of just whatever. Like you said, we need to keep sure that you're staying about 95%, right? To graduate still. So you want to follow up with how many days you've missed and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's there for, like, I guess if you do have people coming into town or unannounced or whatever, we'll have that. And so, yeah, we ask that you give any time off you needed. You give as much notice as possible. Leave request forms, we'll go over that. It's simple, checking some boxes, telling us why you're, we don't really necessarily need to know why you're off for doctor's appointments. It's a medical or doctor. We don't want to know all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, in order to maintain good standing, 95 attendance or above, you must avoid using all your leave time, right? So you'll have it, but if you use it all, that'll most likely put you below 95%. And managing your leave is a soft skill that is not really taught much. So like when you get a job and you have these different leave things, if you get a week a year and you wasted all the first week in January, you're not going to have it for the rest of the year, right? So it's kind of spreading it out and making sure what you pick is necessary, right? Most businesses give higher scrutiny to time off for your first 6 months. So like I said, you want to make a first good impression by not missing the first 6 months, like 3 weeks out of the first 6 months is not necessarily a good thing, right? All right, leave and dismissal. Is that someone else or is that me? All right. So I think I might be back, but if you have any questions about that topic or anything, we can cover them now or at the end or whatever. All right, and I think we have Bernadette. She's a new face up here for you. So do you want to stand here? You want to walk around?
It's fine.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. So we're gonna talk about leave and dismissal. So each policy is intended to support the interns in having a process to formally exit or take the necessary leave that they need. Each policy has a procedure interns must go through, except for program dismissal or program discharge. Interns who formally exit the program withdrawal may be able to reapply. So we had one intern who her family had already planned a trip for like 2 months, and it happened to be during her project search year. So she got to come back the following year because she had started and then they decided they really were going to take the trip. Or we had a gentleman who was sick and he had to take a lot of days off. So we gave him an option of returning later on if he wanted to. So things like that. These policies are not for interns to exit project search just because it's too hard or they don't like the things that, they're being taught or the skills that we're giving them. It's a real occurrence of things, just like at an actual job. Program withdrawals, a process for interns to formally withdraw from the project search program due to project search not being a good fit for employment goals. Interns cannot commit to a full term of the program, and I just gave some examples of those things. Our interns cannot commit to the expectations of the program. Our intern has moved outside of Johnson County, so if they moved out of the perimeter of what we can do the program for, that might lead to a program withdrawal. Leave of absence, a process for interns to request time off during the program due to circumstances beyond their control, such as a health condition, a medical emergency, a death of a family member, or a family emergency and safety needs.
Can I add something to that one real quick too? And we've had that situation come up a few times too. And it's kind of a judgment call. Sometimes if people need to leave unexpectedly for a period of time, that could be something like they had an unexpected operation or a health condition or just something unexpected that came up. It kind of depends on the person, whether it's a better fit to come back when that's resolved and finish out the year, or do kind of what we're describing the previous, we're just do an exit and do it again next year. It kind of depends on the person's needs. And what we think the best path to success is. And it's kind of a team discussion. So just let them keep in mind that depending on your needs in the situation might determine which of those two things we do. Yeah.
Like, for instance, we had a gentleman whose brother had committed suicide right before he started. So we tried to be very careful throughout the year to just check on him and see how he was going to be doing, if he was going to be able to finish, because he had some rough days. So things like that. Program discharge dismissal. If there is conduct beyond what the host business can accommodate, this results in a dismissal from the program. Threats or acts of assault, sexual assault, or battery on or toward any individual. That means us as staff or any of the co-workers that they work with, or another intern. Possession and or use of weapons at any internship site, theft, actions deemed to require a level 5 disciplinary action. And we have been in most of these situations at Project Search. I'm doing lunch too.
Yeah.
Okay. Lunch. Currently, there is no on-site cafeteria at the admin building. There used to be, guys. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I really miss it.
They had hamburgers. They put you a fried egg on there and some jam, but it's gone. So there's not a lunchroom. So therefore, there are places to eat. However, time for lunch is limited. So if you're here at the admin building, you probably have to bring your lunch. At the hotel, I will tell you it's expensive. So you probably should bring your lunch. But
Yourself once in a while.
I will say sometimes on Fridays at the hotel, you get an hour for lunch. And maybe then like people who like to eat out, they usually do it then. But you do still run the risk. If you don't get that lunch in time, you're gonna have to put that up. So that's that adult status piece right there. There are on-site places to eat at the Marriott, but it can be costly to eat there frequently. I think we had a gentleman who was spending like $10 to $15 a day or so. He was spending his whole check. Off-site internships also may not have places to buy lunch. We recommend bringing your own lunch regularly. And we also recommend for those times like Boris was talking about, because we forget things. If you can bring some, snacks or something, just in case you run into those instances, that would be good too.
Both sites will have lockers for you to put stuff in.
Thanks, Brian. All right. Any questions about any of those things before we move on? I could do electronics this year. Okay, so we have information about this on page 17. I'm gonna go over some of the highlights here. And electronics are pretty unavoidable in workplaces nowadays, right? It's gonna come up. So some of the general stuff here is pretty common sense. We're only using electronics when it's appropriate to. So if you have work assignments that require them, or you might have personal electronics you can use during breaks or lunch, right? When you're using an internship site's electronics, we need to use it responsibly, the way they show you how to use it, right? Because you have to remember it's their property, not yours, right? So you need to treat it with a lot of respect. Sometimes you need to put electronics away. So while you're working, you have to be careful what you do with your personal electronics, right? And different internships might have different policies on what you can and can't do. And that's something we look at as skills trainers. So like, for example, a common thing that comes up is that we have some internship sites that don't want your cell phones out at all. We have some that say, yeah, you can listen to music on it, whatever, as long as you have headphones while you're working, it's fine. And in those situations, if that's something that enables you to do your job well, that's fine. But we're also going to be objective with you. And if we feel like it's affecting your performance, then we're going to be honest with you and ask you to stop. So that's just something to keep in mind. We do ask you to use headsets or headphones while listening to audio, even when you're on break, because other people might be using that break area or break room, and it can be disruptive to people around you if you're not doing that. Okay. And then also, we have a lot of sensitivities for just taking random pictures at internship sites. It's just something you have to be careful about. Some places have private or confidential materials you might be working with, or you might have coworkers that are aware they're being photos. So we just ask you to not do that, or talk with us first before you take photographs. Sometimes you might have like interns at the end of rotation that want to take photos with their coworkers, and usually we can figure out stuff for that. But it's just a good communication thing. Don't just take things whenever. Something specific to cell phones and smartwatches. And I do want to say, cell phones are such an important part of everyday life every day. And I think having a cell phone is a good thing, right? It enables you to have another good communication tool, more ways to reach out for help if you need to. I know as a skills trainers, it's unusual for an intern to like text me or something if I'm not at my desk, and it's just another good way to communicate with skills trainers sometimes. So Definitely want people to be able to have their cell phones while they're working. But we need to make sure we're using them responsibly. And we do have to weigh the pros and cons sometimes. So when you have that, you should have it on silent or vibrate as appropriate. They should be used to help you. They should be good tools, right? So they should be enabling your communication, right? They should be helping you keep track of time, right? A lot of people use alarms on their phone. I've seen that help a lot of people. Okay. But if it's becoming a distraction, we're going to look at, is this hurting you more than it's helping you, right? And it's a judgment call. So we've had some situations where we ask people to keep their phone in their locker while they're working or things like that. Not that we ask unless we have to. Because ideally, I want people to learn how to use their phones responsibly at work. Because if you can do that, it's going to help you be successful. But if we're getting to a point where it just doesn't seem like it's going to be realistic, then that's something we'll have to talk about as a team too. So there's just kind of some thoughts on those. So please use this responsibly. Computer, internet, and email usage. So internet's another one of those pervasive things that are very helpful, but the internet can also be another problem area if you're not careful with it. So when you're using, again, electronics at a work site or our computers in class, you should only be using them for the purposes you need to, right? So, do you use it to look up jobs for your job search assignment, right? Don't use it to look up NFL scores during football season, right? Wait till break on your phone, right? And this varies, but some businesses monitor their stuff more closely than others. So if you're using your equipment inappropriately, they might even find out about it. And that might not be good. You also don't want to do things on your computer that might accidentally introduce malware, viruses, and that's something we do some trainings on. So we'll learn more about that, but it's just more reasons why we have to be careful about what we do when we're using things that aren't ours. And really your own stuff too. I have another fun question. Okay, I'll try to hurry up. But this, okay. Who's seen this thing before? What is it? Close. It's a Nintendo Switch, right? That's one of the more recent game consoles. I have one. I'll admit it. They're great. Okay. And before the Switch, you had like Game Boys, Game Boy Advance, Game Gears, things like that. Games on your cell phone. Yeah, do you have a quick question, Joe?
In the game, gotta have bad guys.
Some of them. So here's the thing about things like this. Okay, now you guys might figure it out. I'm a video game fan. I've been playing games for a long time. Okay. I promise you I've played more games than you. Promise. Okay. Now there's not policies in most internship sites, some do, but there's not policies in most internship sites about bringing things like this to work necessarily, right? And I've seen interns like take things like switches or something else to use on the bus or maybe during breaks, which, it's understandable. But this is another thing that's kind of like that Pikachu lunchbox from before, right? Where just because it's not against policy doesn't mean it's necessarily best practice. It's something else that can make you seem unprofessional if you're not responsible with how you use it. Okay. Have you ever seen me bring my Switch to work, Chris?
No.
No. I'd kind of like to, but I haven't done that. Okay. That's just something else to keep in mind, right? That's something else that can be an adult status issue sometimes if you're not careful with it. I'd like to point that out.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not responsible for anything that's lost or stolen.
Right, that too. Okay. And just lastly, just kind of reinforcing that, for electronics at work sites, you don't have a right to privacy. So employers have the right to monitor the devices you use. And that includes our intern computers. So we'll be providing you all with Outlook email addresses to use while in project search, to use for business purposes, but we do have the ability to monitor those. Okay. So, do use them for professional business purposes, but don't misuse them. And we'll talk more about that, what it means when we're using them. And when you sign the acknowledgement at the end, just also certifies that you understand that. Yeah, I'm running a long time, so I'm going to try to get through the rest of this stuff a little quick. This is pretty standard stuff, but we are a drug and alcohol-free workplace. Most places are. Illegal substances and alcohol are not permitted. It's not tolerated. And at Project Search, we don't pass medications on your behalf. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bring medications with you to take independently. Okay. But that'd be your responsibility. I mean, sometimes we've helped provide some coaching, like help you set reminders or things like that, help you get in a good routine, but not actually administering things. Also, it can be a good practice to bring like PRNs you commonly need to use. We call them, I'm using lingo.
Over-the-counter stuff.
Over the counter stuff. So if you're someone who gets headaches, bring some Tylenol with you sometimes. Or if you have allergies, have a solution for that so it doesn't get in the way of your work too much. You can do things like that. Yeah. And then lastly, I'm going to go over disciplinary. Oh, do we have a question? Sure. That'd be a good idea.
Because we have lockers you can lock them in, or if you want to.
And that's a good thing to practice too, because those are skills that, again, you can use them at work, right? You're going to continue using that strategy in any workplace. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to cover disciplinary actions. Page 19. Okay, and disciplinary actions, they're not fun, but they are important, and they can be a good constructive tool also. So I'm going to talk a bit about those and how we kind of handle them at Project Search and what some of those different stages look like. So we're a business-led program. So we've talked some about our host businesses here at Johnson County Government and at Marriott, and we borrow things from them for some of our policies, and this is one of them. So our disciplinary action process here is pretty similar to what Johnson County Government uses. Okay. And in fact, we coordinate a lot with our HR partners to put stuff together, and they give us feedback on some of the things we do with it. So while you're here, you do need to follow your host business policies and procedures and your internship sites. And as we go through the program year, we'll be giving you feedback about your performance, right? The good things, but also things you need to work on, right? And it's really important in a workplace to not only do your best, but also be willing to take feedback and do it in a professional way, because it's going to come up for everyone at some point or another. So we want to learn how to manage this corrective feedback well. It is supposed to be a constructive process. It's to help you, right? Not to bring you down, right? So we're not going to be talking about anything without being supportive, encouraging, and helping offer solutions. That's always the main idea behind it, okay? Because we just want you to be successful. So here's the different types of corrective actions we might do. Let me go through some of these. So level 1 is verbal warning, okay? And this one's pretty straightforward. It's basically just someone talking to you about something, right? Just verbally talking with you. It's like, hey, Cherie, this is something I feel like you could do better, right? Yeah, please try to improve on this, right? Pretty straightforward. So if you're verbally talked to about something and you fix that, great. Done. But if it continues, then we might move on to level 2, which is a written warning, right? And there's some different ways we might do written warning. So we have something called a counseling form. A counseling form is something we use usually when someone is making incorrect, poor choices at work. It's usually a behaviorally related concern, right? Whereas the performance improvement plan is more related to successful job duties, right? Like doing well at your actual job, right? And then we give steps about how we can get to a better place with that. Level 3 is just an additional written warning of some type. Sometimes we might readdress what it was and try a different strategy. So maybe we'll do a performance improvement plan the first time. And then after trying that, we feel like, well, maybe there are some conduct concerns here that are actually causing this, for example. I'm just thinking a random example. And then we might try doing a counseling form that time. Or we might do a second performance improvement plan and adjust it. Level 4 is suspension, where we ask you to stay out of your workplace for a few days, and that can be in class or out of class, depending on the situation. And then level 5 is discharge. So that's where we need you to leave, right? And that's something we kind of talked about earlier with some of those more serious situations that were covered about program discharge. Now, what exactly we do depends on a few factors, right? So whenever there's something we want to give you feedback on, we're going to consider these things. One is, what have we already done, right? Okay. Have we done any corrective actions about this thing before? So is this the first counseling form we had to do, or the fourth one, right? Are they related, or are they for different things, right? How connected are they? The next thing we look at is how serious it was, right? So in this example, we have maybe returning from break late once, which, not great, but happens to everyone sometimes, versus stealing a large amount of money, right? There's kind of an objective, there's a lot of subjectivity of things like this, but then when you think you can make a pretty objective call that one's worse than the other, right? So if someone stole $200, I probably wouldn't do a counseling form. I'd probably need to suspend them or ask them to leave, right? Depending on exactly what happened. How often is it happening, right? So taking a pen home once versus taking a pen home every day for 3 weeks, right? So I'm kind of notorious for accidentally taking pens home, but if you're intentionally taking supplies home regularly, like that's something that's a small thing that can become a bigger problem over time. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, as far as like, yeah, I mean, we'll go through processes of that. You don't just take people's words for it that they're stealing.
Yeah. Right.
Cameras, yeah.
Well, and I mean, sometimes we have to do investigations, like we'll have to talk to people involved and who saw what. It's really not that much different than what like an HR department might do.
I think that's what that is for you.
Oh,
It was dark, I can't see where I'm going.
Well, that's pretty common.
the good news is you turn a light on.
Yeah. What the needs of your internship are. And so different things might be more serious or less serious depending on where it happened. So for example, I kind of gave that phone example earlier, right? Where some places might not care if you have your phone out very much, or maybe they have a policy against it, but it's not as big a deal. But some places might take that more seriously. So a common places we see that is a lot of restaurants don't want their employees having their phones on at all while they're anywhere customers can see. So they take that a lot more seriously than like a laundry room where maybe they just kind of be like, cut it out, right? Right. So those are some of the different factors. The last thing I like to say about this is just two things to consider. And this is a paradigm our HR department uses, and I've seen used in other places. Slow drip versus the burst pipe. Who in here has had a burst pipe in their house? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. It's pretty bad, right? It can cause a lot of water damage. So that's an example of one event that's really bad and causes a lot of damage, right? Those are those like severe concerns, right? So obviously those are things that are pretty immediately identifiable. We got to fix this, right? But we also have slow drip problems. Who's ever had like a leaky pipe in their wall or something before? Yeah. And that's something you might not notice at first, but the longer it takes you to notice it, the bigger a deal it is, right? And that's what we call our slow drip problems, things that seem like a small thing, like taking the pen home every day. And at first, like a supervisor would be like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal. But then the more it happens, all of a sudden it's a problem. And now we care about it a lot, right? And so we also want to be able to look at the slow drip problems and stopping them pretty quick, right? The sooner we stop that drip, the better off we are, right? So sometimes we're getting feedback. It might seem like we're kind of focusing on this small thing, but there's a reason for it because we don't want to become a slow drip problem. And we're looking at you, again, being really prepared when you're looking for jobs and having your best chance at success, right? So it's always with the interest of helping you do better, right? Does that make sense? And that's all the main stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Whew.
A lot of stuff to
Questions?
take in. Questions, like I said, will be around here.
Yeah, we'll be around cleaning up.
Any questions about what we're handing out and what you need to leave here with us? The application? I believe we have your application. Didn't they have it ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got your, I think we have yours.
If we're missing stuff, we will send out an email prior to, doing the workforce part.
Yeah.
We'll be there too, on those days that we'll be working right on the,
If, thank you. Yeah, if you finish any of those forms, you can stay here a little bit if you want to fill some stuff out. If you finish, if there's things you're finished with that you want to go ahead and turn in, you can just take them to our desk over there as you walk out. If there's anything you need to look at home real quick before you turn it in, that's fine. We'll reach out to you about it a bit later.
And
And we're going to start the recording.